Good evening, everyone. We want to welcome you to the All Good City Council meeting for the month of April 2018. On behalf of myself and Vice Mayor Norris, Councilman Bilbrey, Councilman Grant, and Councilman Hill, we want to say thank you for your attendance. We hope that you will interact tonight and tell us how you feel. We'll have an open session toward the end of the meeting, and you can make comments and ask questions. And this is your government. Please take an active role. With that being said, we'll have a roll call. Mrs. Flatt?
Honorable Mayor Dyer.
Present.
Honorable Vice Mayor Norris.
Present.
Honorable Councilman Bilbrey.
Present.
Honorable Councilman Grant.
Present.
Honorable Councilman Hill.
Present.
This time, if you would stand, we'll have our invocation. Mr. Morrison, please.
You would bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many opportunities that you give us each day, Lord. We thank you for this wonderful city of all good that you allow us to call home. We thank you, Lord, for the safety of our employees and our citizens, and pray that you would watch over us, Lord, and continue to keep us safe. We pray, Lord, for guidance upon this council, that they would make decisions for the well-being of all who are represented here, that they are seeing over. Pray that you would watch those that are sick and afflicted, Lord, in touch with pain and death, that you would be with them in their time of need, that you would put a hedge of protection around them, Lord, and keep them safe from harm. We pray that you would continue to watch over us and keep the employees safe and the citizens safe as we continue to move through the rest of the week. And we thank you for all that you do for us each day. It's in your name. Amen.
Amen. Captain Swallows, will you lead our pledge, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you haven't been with us recently, behind me you will notice that everything that we're going to speak about tonight is on the overhead projector. That is for your benefit, so you can see exactly what we're talking about as we talk about it. Our first item is to consider the agenda and minutes as presented, and I would like to amend our agenda. After speaking with Mr. Morrison, I don't recall either yesterday or today, he had left off the chance for us to add CRI as our auditor for the next fiscal year. That was the same folks who did our previous audit. So I'll move that we approve this agenda with that added, please.
I'll make a motion.
I'll
Got
second.
A motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey.
Yes.
Honorable Grant.
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 2 under old business, item number two under consider agenda and minutes is consider the approval of the minutes of our previous meeting held on March 13th, 2018. Each member was afforded the minutes in their packet and had a chance to look over them. Are there any questions or comments, changes that need to be made? I'll make a motion.
I second.
Motion and second. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey.
Yes.
Honorable Grant.
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
We'll move on to new business now. Keith, you may have to help me along with this concerning the ordinance number that we talked about. I did not make that change on mine.
Those
All
are
right.
gonna be okay on there, just
Okay.
on the ordinance header that we'll need to adjust it.
Okay, on the ordinance header, okay. Consider approval to suspend the reading of ordinance 624-18 and 625-18. And these are concerning some upcoming items later in our agenda. Do I have a motion, please?
I make the motion.
A second.
A motion and a second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt?
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 4. The floor will now be open for public comment on ordinance 624-18. This is to consider the approval of second and final reading to change the zoning classification of approximately 0.85 acres located at Cooper Road and Dry Valley Road intersection from R1 Single Family Residential to R3 High Density Residential. This was approved on first reading, and that was at last month's meeting. The floor is now open for public comment. Anyone who wishes to address this issue, please step to the microphone and state your name and whatever you'd like to say. Yes, sir.
My name is Ron Graves. I live at 201 Brookside Drive. We've only been in Allgood a year. After 36 years at Oak Ridge, 20 years in private business, I retired to the peaceful little town of Allgood. And now, in my second retirement, as I work in my yard and view what's happening, I see traffic congestion all up and down Dry Valley, Cooper Road. And I'm concerned because, you know, the last time, we were here last month, and this issue came up on this rezoning, was discussed and voted upon. I mentioned after the meeting about the traffic, the intersection of Cooper and Dry Valley, and I know that the stop sign has been torn down at least 3 times, maybe 4 times, since I have lived in Brookside. Since the last meeting, an 18-wheeler demolished it again, coming down Cooper Road, which is a no-truck road, from my understanding. That's what the sign says. And Dry Valley up on this end says no trucks. So we got trucks traveling both Dry Valley and Cooper. And now we're talking about adding 6 units that will exit into Cooper, I think. I don't know much about the design other than what I've been shown in private, but you know, it would have been nice to have shown this the last meeting to let the people there know what's going on. Everybody was in the dark that lives down there. We didn't know. So the traffic is an issue. You can't get out on Dry Valley out of Brookside at certain times of the day because of the school traffic. This will add to that. It won't take away from it. It will add to it because there will be at least 6 to 12 more vehicles coming in out of these units. The second thing that I'm concerned about is I'm not opposed necessarily to having nice units replace an old house. That's not my concern. The traffic is my concern, and my second concern is how do we know? You show the picture that you showed just a moment ago. Do we have assurance or guarantees or anything that this is going to be built to look like these pictures? I mean, R3 can be a lot of different things. And I'm saying that from business perspective because I'm on the code committees, ICC, have been for years. And I'm concerned that I've seen situations where people say, we're going to do something, and then they don't quite do what they say they're going to do. Do you have any control over that, or is this just an issue of being rezoned from R1 to R3 and then let something happen? That's my question tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Graves. Mr. Lane?
Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Lane. I live in the neighborhood. I've lived in Allgood for a long time, about 30 years. Seen a lot of changes. I think they're good changes. I appreciate the progress. When I first moved to Allgood, some of my friends said, "Why you want to live over there for?" Now we have a lot of people wanting to live in our community, and that's good. It's good for home values. It's good for property values. It's good that investors and developers are seeing opportunity. I can understand the points that were raised. When I first heard about this proposed change, I thought that traffic might even be less with these residential units than the daycare that had previously been there. I don't know, but I just thought there might be potential for that. The construction, that's for a short while, and then you have a good thing, and I think the developer involved here has a good track record for quality units that look well and are something that are an asset and a good addition to the community. So I would just say, as someone who appreciates that we now have some sidewalks and wider streets that accommodate the traffic, I know the school generates traffic, but it's great to have a school in the community, and that's why it's so popular with a lot of people looking for a place to live. And these things come, and I think our goal would be that when we see this progress, that it is done well, and I think it will be. And so I'm voicing my support for the rezoning.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Anyone else would like to speak?
Richard Wood, I live at 343 Brookside. First of all, I would say that the quality of the townhouse, not even in question on the deal. I know the builder, he's quality, he's here in the community. The issues that I have that I would like for the council and the developer to consider is when they do the site plan, that you do something about the curve, the corner of Dry Valley and Cooper Road. Something has got to be done. I mean, I have come out of Brookside, almost had a nice little come to meeting. And when I've come down Cooper, it's like it's the same thing. There's just not enough.
Well, not to interrupt you, but to elaborate on that particular subject that has been discussed in the last 2 days between Mr. Morrison and myself, and Mr. Jones has been involved, and we already have a plan in place that is going to alleviate. It won't make it completely disappear, but it is definitely going to help the situation at that corner. Irregardless of the vote that is cast here tonight, that corner is going to be addressed.
Good. I'm glad to see that.
You please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. And the other thing is that in your site plan, when you are addressing that, I think it would be very nice as a gift to the city that the developer maybe fund some of the moving of those utilities on the site plan that you have to get done to get the road where it's. I think that'd be a nice gift to the city. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Matheson. I also live in Brookside.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm very thankful for Allgood, for the police, the fire, the city council, the people that have governed the few years that we have lived here. My husband and I downsized to move to Allgood several years ago, and he's been in heaven 2 years now. So I'm still in Allgood at Brookside. But I agree with everything these three gentlemen have said. I have a great concern about traffic. It is not necessarily the school traffic that is the problem. It's the regular traffic. It doesn't matter what time of day it is, and most people fly down Dry Valley. Now, I don't know if the police understand that or not, but they do. And you can be, I live in the entrance closest to the school, and as I come out to look, you know, there's a little rise, and sometimes there's nobody, and then when I start pulling out, man, they're almost on top of me. And I would appreciate the fact if something is done to control the regular laws concerning the speed limit in Allgood, Tennessee. Another thing is I'm concerned about added traffic from added families. I disagree with the change. I would like to see, I know that it's money involved and there's more money if there's 6 units built and sold or rented or leased than if there are 2 homes built on that same property, one facing Dry Valley and one facing Cooper Road. And you stop and think about this, gentlemen and ladies and everyone in the audience. If you come into Brookside, you look up, you have apartments right there at the school. You go down Cooper Road, you have apartments down Cooper Road. Now, if you want to build these units here, you know, we're not much of a community subdivision anymore. We're not living in a metropolitan area, and we don't want to live in a metropolitan area. So we would appreciate some consideration. Think about what, please, gentlemen and ladies, think about what is best for the citizens of Allgood, Tennessee. Not necessarily what is best for profit, but what is best for the citizens. So I appreciate the time. I appreciate your consideration. My prayers are with you, and I am thankful to live in Allgood, Tennessee. And I do talk about the problem there on the corner of Cooper and Dry Valley. We all know what that is. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to address? Yes, sir.
I'm Jim Evans. I live at 231 Brookside, one of the early ones on Brookside. I want to bring up a point that no matter what we've talked about has not been mentioned, and it's going to make things worse no matter what we do. And that is the size of the vehicles. Take a look, go down Brookside or go down probably any place, and look at the size of the vehicles. Instead of a 2 or 4 passenger car, now it's an enormous pickup truck with 6 seats in the back and a bed. The size of the vehicles is going to make traffic horrendous no matter what you do. But that hasn't been considered and should be. The only solution, I guess, would be if you could make roads wider, which I don't think is feasible, but consider that. Traffic's going to get worse no matter what you do. So how bad is it going to get? Now, at my age, I'm not going to be around to face the worst problems. Our younger generations will be. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to address the council on this matter?
Can I make one more comment?
Yes, sir. Please step to the podium.
This is on a subject that the lady brought up about the speed of the traffic. I talked to the police chief some time ago. He's making progress. I want to compliment him on that because I know he slowed down at least 1 or 2 vehicles that were chronic offenders down there. And there's still some more, but I got confidence that he'll take care of them pretty soon too.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Mr. Gilbert, would you like to address us?
My name's Chad Gilbert. I'm the developer on behalf of the owner, who's a little bit disabled at the moment here. But
That's the reason I didn't call his name.
you know, we think that the traffic's a net reduction. Well, I mean, it can be studied and confirmed that it is from the 100 trips in the morning to the 100 trips in the afternoon that were being experienced at the daycare. The building will obviously be, you know, improved. The architecture there that we're offering, and we tend to build what we say we're going to build. So, I mean, short of, you know, anything other than I can offer, that's our intention. You know, we're happy to work with the city as we always do on our developments, and anything we can cooperate and make a net improvement in the vicinity, we're always willing to work with Victor and Keith and anything else we can do. I'm happy to answer any other questions as well.
Well, I think that,
I will offer this. One of the things that we will be able to have an opportunity to do is provide detention, which there is none there now. So
Right.
I mean, that will be a net gain as well.
well, that is a definite gain, the detention, especially, well, in any area,
Yeah.
but especially that area because of a lot of water issues.
Yes, sir.
And I think everyone that lives in this area is aware of that. But I think Mr. Graves brought it up, and realistically, sir, if we were to rezone this R3, no, sir, we don't have any control what goes on that property at that point.
That's a concern.
Okay? All that we could do as a city is to take the developer and owner at their word that they're going to build townhomes. I would also add this, were they not to build townhomes, I don't think if they were to come back and ask for any other rezoning that they would be met with a favorable intention. So I would think if, for future reference, if they wanted to continue to build or develop in Allgood, they would build exactly what they say they're going to.
And we're happy to put in the HOA too, that we advise all of our occupants to obey the speed limits. Help encourage that too.
Yeah. Does any one of the council have a question or comment, please?
I actually have a question, but it's probably more from a planning standpoint, is to help me understand it. I'm sure I'm not the only person that has this question. I mean, based upon what's been presented from a planning standpoint, I mean, they can't, builders, I believe it when he says he's gonna build, I mean, those are very nice structures of what we're seeing up on the screen right now. But, if he wins the lottery and there's another, and he sells his company to ABC developer, what can we, from a planning standpoint, be holding, what are you going to be doing from a planning standpoint, hold them to this plan?
As far as the specifics of this plan, there's nothing that we can hold them to legally. Contract zoning in Tennessee is illegal.
Understood.
That's where we'll rezone this if you do this.
Understood.
That's illegal. We cannot do that. But what we can do is, if it is rezoned, the only thing that will be allowed there are the things that are allowed in that zoning district. So if they change plans and decided to do something differently, for example, in the R3, single-family detached dwellings, duplexes and two-family dwellings, apartments are allowed, but they would have to do a site plan, just like they've got a preliminary site plan or a conceptual site plan that was shown on the screen just a moment ago. When they submit a site plan to us, once that is approved by the planning commission, it would have to be built that way. They could not deviate from it. So as far as the specific use, at this point, we cannot get a guarantee that it will be built what they're proposing. Just like if a applicant petitions to have a property rezoned from residential to a commercial use, the only thing that we have control over is it has to be one of those uses that are permitted outright in the zoning district, or a use run on appeal, which is subject to board zoning appeal approval, and site plan as well.
But the site plan that's been approved as of right now,
No.
It has not.
It has not been.
It has
No,
not.
it is a conceptual site plan. This
Yes.
is
Just
just
conceptual.
an illustration of what they want to do.
Gotcha.
They'll have to do a more detailed site plan and present that to the planning commission.
And that would have to be accepted by the planning commission as a site plan. So this, were it to take place tonight, still has some process to go through, i.e. the site plan submittal and approval. The planning commission has to approve that site plan. And if they do not, then they will explain why. They go back and redraw and say, this needs to be changed and this needs to be changed through the avenues that Mr. Rush supplies them, so there's still some process to this, were we to say yes to this rezoning tonight.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the council have any comment or question? Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you.
I do have a question from a planning, or that's already happened. The planning committee looked at the traffic issue, and previously this was a daycare, and there was I don't know how you even quantify the amount of traffic, but what happened at the planning stages that would, because this issue was contemplated from a and it was, the conclusion, as I understand, was that this was a net positive for traffic, versus the daycare that was there. Is that right? Is what was considered and?
At the planning commission, we did discuss traffic, and a typical daycare, and that was a fairly large daycare. I don't know the exact number of kids that were kept there, but they're being picked up and dropped off at least once a day. For each child that's at the daycare, that's one trip in and out twice a day. So if you have 20 kids there, that's 40 trips in and out. A development of 6 units, even two vehicles per unit, 24 typically in and out 1.5 times a day. So I think it would be a net decrease compared to the daycare. It'd be a increase over 2 single-family homes being there, obviously, but we really can't compare what we necessarily want it to be, but to what was there before. So we did look at consider traffic on the conceptual site plan. One of the things we did note, the entrance to this development would have to be shifted back to the west, back down Cooper, to keep as much space to the intersection as possible. And then there'll have to be some other prep work done and more detail put on the site plan. But that was one of the things that we looked at and recommended immediately in the planning commission meeting.
Yes, that was, I'm not gonna take credit for it, but I do recall mentioning that was one of the things that I was concerned with, was making the ingress egress as far up the property line, up Cooper Road, away from Dry Valley, to avoid any congestion problems there at that intersection. And then, of course, the city, as it stands, addressing the intersection issues that are blatant, they're wide open, we can see them. So with those two things in mind, I feel like that it's, a positive for that area, doing those two things, if nothing else. So, any other question or comment? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Laverne Evans. I've lived in Brookside. I'm one of the original people, over 12.5 years. First of all, I have to tell you, there's never been a problem that I have witnessed with the daycare. Never, honest to God. I've never seen them, pile up traffic, ever. Secondly, I don't understand. You're showing a picture here of 6 townhouses, and yet the other picture is apartment buildings. Now, what are you talking about? Townhouses, apartment buildings, 2 different things. Townhouses are individual buildings that are attached. And what kind of parking will they have? Will they have garages?
That's something the developer, as far as I know, they're not planning any garage.
Right now, we're planning on surface parking.
Will they have garages?
Well, right now, the intent is to surface park them.
How many parking places will you allot there?
Just what the zoning requires.
And what is on that?
I think we have the number there. I think it's 2 per, something like that.
Two parking places per unit?
I think that's
So
what the zoning
12?
requires.
Well, let me tell you, when you drive down Cooper and you look at the, those duplexes, count the cars in the driveway. 4 cars, most of the time. I drive down there every day, every day. Take a look at how many cars are parked there in the morning. There's gonna be a problem there, and I don't see why they have to change the zoning.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
I'd like to piggyback on that question and ask Chief. From a parking standpoint, if people are parking illegally, and maybe this might be for the developer, if there's a homeowners association where there be opportunities to tow and things of that nature, we obviously don't want people parking on the grass or, God forbid, somebody parking on Cooper. But that is a concern. Is if there's only two parking spots per unit. If there's 2 people, most people have 2 cars. If you have 1 guest, you're now overflowing your designated lot. So how would that work if there's somebody have a guest? 3 or 4 people have guests, they're going to be kind of out of luck.
We talked about this last opposition to. We just trying to
There's-
by your zoning.
Okay.
And we've done that, but a
Yeah.
couple more is,
It wouldn't be an issue?
no consequence at all.
Anyone else?
Ms. Evans, did you have another question? You raised your hand.
I did, but I was listening to you.
I'm sorry.
I mentioned before, the size of the vehicles, which admittedly you have no control over, that's gonna get worse. So when you see a space now that you figure for one vehicle, or two vehicles, it's not gonna be one, or two, there'll be one. You're gonna lose places because of the sizes of the vehicles. You have no control over it. So consider that among your other considerations. Make it harder, not easier.
Thank you, sir. If there's no one else, I'll now close the floor for public comment on ordinance 624-18. Consider approval of second and final reading of ordinance 624-18 to change the zoning classification of approximately 0.85 acres located at the Cooper Road and Dry Valley Road intersection from R1 Single Family Residential to R3 High Density Residential. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Ms. Flatt, before you read, I want to add that, you know, I did vote against this the first time because I didn't have enough information. The way I'm seeing this is that this has to be a net positive for our community and for this area. There was concerns with regards to the way the streets are configured. We're really at a fork in the road as to what we currently have versus what's being requested by a developer. You know, the way I see it, that house, I've not been inside. Victor, have you been inside that house? It's in rough condition. We've had some crime issues there from the previous tenant. Is that right, Chief? And so we've got a house that's kind of fallen on some hard times. So the fork in the road, as I understand it, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, is status quo one single house or the 6 unit for what we're seeing these pictures here tonight. And I firmly believe the developer's gonna build what they say they're gonna build. I think their reputation is on the line if they don't, not just for here in Allgood, but you know, if they don't produce what is if they're not selling what they're selling here, then they're gonna pay for it later somewhere, you know, when they
You're
make
correct,
another request at another community. So the fork in the road is actually is status quo versus these 6 units, new units. I personally think that the benefit is to have the 6 units, reconfigure the streets, and solve the interchange there, and the detention pond's a nice addition as well. So just thought I'd throw that out there. That's where my head is. This is a net positive versus what we currently have.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. We have a motion on the floor originally by Mr. Bilbrey, seconded by Vice Mayor Norris. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Mayor, if I could
Yes, sir.
comment on that too. I also want to say this went before the Planning Commission for 2 days. And I know that sometimes it's hard to stay abreast of all the information that's going on in the city of Allgood, but I do want to invite everybody out. The Planning Commission meetings are open to the public, and we would love your opinion and concerns. I'm on the Planning Commission, and the first time that I saw these plans drawn up, I had some of the exact same concerns. So I do understand when you hear about this, a lot of thought has gone into this before this vote gets cast. So I just want to invite everybody, if you're concerned about your city, please, we would love to hear your concerns, especially at an earlier time.
I'll add to that. I'm shy to add to things. If we could do something, you know, for future rezonings because, I mean, it kind of snuck up on me, and I'm sitting up here. I mean, shame on me maybe, but it snuck up on me somehow or another. I did not have all the information. And so, you know, I guess I don't know what the requirements are. Looking over here to our legal counsel as to what the requirements are. So maybe we could revisit that as to, bigger sign or mandate, that for future rezoning that the adjacent property owners actually get notice, like in the mail, something along those lines. But yeah, I mean, it snuck up on me, so it sneaks up on everybody. Something to just keep in mind.
Item number 5, consider approval of first reading of ordinance 625-18, amending the fiscal 17-18 budget passed by the original ordinance 616-17. Mr. Morrison, if you please.
This is an amendment to the budget to increase administration expense for capital outlay for the White Plains Historical House purchase that's being voted on tonight for $250,000. So in the event that doesn't pass, that would be removed. Increasing the police department expense capital outlay for a replacement car by $28,500. Those will both decrease the general fund balance by $278,500. The car purchase for the police department was insurance funds that were paid in last fiscal year, and so those were deposited into general funds since we didn't replace the car at that time. We didn't need it. So now we're transferring those funds back into the police department from that insurance check for the replacement car that you all voted to order last month, which is here, striped, and almost ready for the road. The other two changes to the budget are the police department expense for repair and maintenance of motor vehicles by $6,529.64. This was for a repair of a patrol car that was rear-ended as the officer was on his way to work. Insurance has paid for that, so we will also be increasing miscellaneous net revenue by $6,529.64. So we have to show that insurance check coming in and that expense going out. We are also increasing the drug fund revenue and expense due to a award by the court of drug money that was received by the police department for a drug raid that they made. The dollar amount for that drug raid that was awarded to the city was $49,079. So revenue and expense for the drug fund was increased to that amount to net zero at the end. And that is what the amendments are here for. This will be at second reading next month.
Any question or comment from the council? I'll entertain a motion.
I make the motion.
I have a motion
Second.
and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
I will comment and say that it's nice to be able to report money coming in that the police department's generating. I don't think anything else needs to be said about that. Number 6, consider approval to surplus the 2007 Harley Davidson motorcycle VIN number 1HD1FMM187Y662643 with proceeds going to the drug fund. Mr. Morrison.
This is a LISO acquired Harley motorcycle. We've already surplused the other one. This was the second one. After sitting down with Chief Armour, we decided these were no longer needed. We've used them for a couple of years, put some money into them to repair them. At this time, we've decided we're not going to continue to use them, so we're just asking permission to surplus them and get them out of the lineup.
Any comment or question from the council? I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt?
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 7, and we have this documentation in our packet. Consider approval to purchase a 2018 Polaris Ranger Crew 570-6 in the amount of $13,098.06 on the NJPA contract from the drug fund. And I was made aware that we were possibly talking about 2 of these instead of just one.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make the motion that we amend that to be 2 of them approved to be bought.
Okay. Any discussion or question from the council?
Just for purpose of record, what, Victor, what are we using these for? Or, I'm sorry.
We're gonna use them for, events here, so that we can get in and out, the rail trail, if we have somebody maybe break an ankle or whatever, we've got some, we can access to them. It's gonna be a smaller vehicle that we can get in and out of locations.
I got you.
It's strictly gonna be for, the police department, also in some of our wooded areas, if we need to start looking for any type of contraband that may be, growing or being manufactured there, if there's an access, we will have, may not be able to get a regular vehicle into.
Right. Right.
It's gonna be used by the police department, but it's gonna be available to the fire department also, even though we're using the drug fund money as a one-time purchase. It's something that the whole department, all departments can utilize and need, so it's not just gonna be housed strictly at the police department.
Well, with the rail trail and hopefully the addition coming in the near future, along with our 4th of July celebration, our Quilt Festival celebration and things like that. And I've been made to understand that they're also going to carry medical bags and possibly an AED device on these during these events. So if there's any issues, we've got something that we can get and attend the public with fairly quickly, rather than just a regular sized patrol vehicle or truck or so on and so forth. So,
As the park continues, it will also be utilized as a park.
yeah.
Thank you.
So we
I
have,
have an amendment, a motion for an amendment to change that to 2. I will second that, sir. That we purchase 2 of these from the drug fund on the NJPA contract. I have a motion,
and you seconded it.
and I will second it. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 8, consider approval to purchase Axon tasers under the plan. And in last night's meeting, we were given 2 separate cost-effective, if you will, plans to study and look over. And I know that each has had an opportunity to do that. Do we have any comment on either or both of those plans? Any discussion? Mr. Hill?
Well, just for purposes of the record, I mean, I'd love to hear kind of just a quick overview, Keith, if you could,
Sure.
just kind of give us an overview of what those our 2 options are.
Let me explain first. These are Axon tasers. They are considered sole source providers for a taser that links to our camera. In the event the taser is deployed, it automatically sends a signal to the camera that is on the officer's body that if an event happens that the camera has not been previously activated, the taser will automatically turn the camera on and grab 30 seconds prior to activation on that video. Those cameras are on a continuous loop. Once the button's hit, they grab up to 30 seconds prior to activation. So in the event the officer was in a situation that he had slipped and not turned the camera on or forgotten it or something happened, this taser will ensure that that camera is activated. So that is a sole source provider for that equipment. The taser options that we have, currently not all officers have them, and some of them are failing. We've had them for several years. Batteries are expensive. The one we've got has been phased out and is no longer available to get. 2 options exist here basically over a 5-year plan. One is that you purchase the tasers, basically spreading the payments out over 5 years with no interest, no finance, or anything of that nature. However, versus just paying up front for them, you will get 3 training cartridges per year and unlimited duty cartridges and batteries. So if this taser was deployed under the 5-year payment plan, Axon will provide us with a replacement cartridge and a replacement battery if needed. Due to the fact that these tasers are linked to the camera, the battery is prone to wear down quite extensively because they're constantly connecting to the camera to ensure that it's connected. So batteries would be covered under this plan. Basically, year one, you're going to pay $4,425. And then years 2 through 5, you're going to pay $5,925. That's a total of $28,125 over the 5-year period. The other option is to pay for the tasers up front with a year one payment of $21,255. And then in subsequent years 2 through 5, you pay $5,070. At the end of the year 5 payment, you would automatically be reissued the 15 replacement tasers, brand new, whatever models, hot off the shelf. So basically what you're doing is paying up front for the initial 15 and prepaying for the next 15 that will be picked up in 5 years. Total cost of that plan is $41,535. The difference is that you're prepaying and you're going to get a second set at the end of 5 years. You would also get the unlimited cartridges, battery replacement, and 3 training cartridges. And so the other option is just straight out buy them, and you buy cartridges as needed, which batteries as needed. And those are expensive. You're talking $24,413 straight out for 15 of those with 30 cartridges and 30 batteries. Is that correct? And then you would be on your own buying any replacements that were used, or as batteries died, you would have to buy them. So after speaking with the chief, the prepayment of 15 and then get 15 more in 5 years is going to save you about $16,000 on the second purchase price. However, there's no guarantee that in 5 years you're going to want to stay with that product, or that it would continue to link with the camera. Something may change in that 5 years. So it's our opinion that just spreading the payment over 5 years, getting unlimited cartridges, batteries, and 3 training per year would be the better plan.
Thank you, sir.
And then reassess, and then reassess at the
Re-
end of the
and
5
then
years.
reassess
So
after
you're
5.
saying do the 5-year thing, don't lock into the second round.
Right.
And
No huge prepayment, because it could potentially be the point that we may need to change, or something may have changed that we don't need to prepay for those 15 units, and it may not be needed.
Price in 5 years might be
Might go down.
10 cents a thing.
And to me, it just seems, this first plan that we discussed seems more cost effective for the city.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that company will still be in business 5 years from now.
That's correct. That's correct. Any other question or comment concerning this?
Chief, this is your support.
Yes, very much so. Especially the sole source on the cameras. It gives us accountability to you and the citizens here, that if we can find another product, we would not.
And we're not using any kind of tasers right now, is that right?
We have tasers now that are starting to fail.
Okay.
Not everyone's issued one. They apparently have a service life, and I'm getting educated on tasers like you are tonight. In reviewing all the stuff we have, I believe the program we've outlined here is going to be the best for us. We've got to replace what we have. It saves us in so many other ways. Liability issues, it saves us on wear and tear on our officers. There's also that, my understanding in the last several years prior to my tenure, there was probably 1 to 2 taser incidents a year. That's it. That saves having to use any other type of force on someone. Right. Whether it's hands or it goes in the leg. So it's kind of that middle of it, middle of the road, but we can do something with it. I'm very much a proponent of the taser program.
Well, I like it, first and foremost because of officer safety. That's number one with me. Secondly, as you alluded to, but as we hate to sit here and say it, it is a liability world. That's the type of world we live in. So the activation between the camera and the taser, I think, is a huge, huge asset. Not only for this department, but for any, and I'm sure it's probably being looked at and elaborated in towns all across America, so, I think that's a big deal. Any other question or comment from the council on this? I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
A motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Hang on.
Mayor Dyer.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I need to
clarify.
I need to
Clarify your
clarify
motion.
the motion that we will accept
The TASER 60 plan.
the TASER 60 plan for $28,125.
Thank you.
Mr. Bilbrey,
I second it.
and a second. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey.
Yes.
Honorable Grant.
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Number 9, consider approval to purchase the White Plains House and approximately 2.27 acres in the amount of $250,000. Before we get into this, I want to allow Mr. Morrison to inform, and then we can discuss at length. So, Mr. Morrison, please.
The owner of the property of the White Plains House approached the city about the possibility of purchasing the property once again. I emailed the council members individually, asked them what the interest was. We met with the owner of the property, worked out some details as to what he thought were options for the city to purchase this property. Then I met with council members individually. Each was allowed to tour the house, look at the property, talk about what the possibilities were, and what they felt like an acceptable price was. After many emails and many back and forth conversations, we have finally negotiated the price of the house and approximately 2.27 acres to $250,000, with the intent that the house would become a historical museum, the possibilities being a quilt museum, maybe some Civil War, Revolutionary War history. All good history could be in a room, that we could have all good school history in a room, and that possibly we could do tours of the facility and try to maintain the green space on the side of the house at Old Walton Circle where the barns are, and try to save the barn. The 2.27 acre property boundary would be just behind the big tree at the end of the sidewalk going down Old Walton Circle, and go all the way across the property to the fence line that borders on the neighboring property, allowing us to put a parking lot in the field closest to the school, and also allowing us in the back of the property to put a public restroom so that the restroom facilities in the house would not require public access, so that we can maintain the integrity of the house. We have talked with the Upper Cumberland Development District, who has volunteered that there are historic grants that would help pay for 60% of the home renovations through grant, as well as any updates for the historical site. We've had several interests in volunteers of trying to help bring that up and show the house and get the Quilt Museum going, as well as the fact that the original house was built in 1848. It has the well of 3 presidents. It was where President Jackson and Rachel Jackson stopped on their way through town. I believe it was also the corner of the 4 counties at one time, and one of the central points for travel through the area. So it has high potential historical value. One of the school teachers has even worked on getting this in the Tennessee history books in the event it becomes public property, which with our purchase it would, and that it would be in the history books to be shared with all the students in the state of Tennessee, and could become a natural stopping point for many visitors to the area as well as to the county. So it could be a major marker for Allgood as well as for Putnam County.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I'll begin with you, Mr. Hill. Any comment or question on this?
Just curious as to, it's a wonderful property. I've had so many people, I'm sure you all have as well, as come up and say, hey, got to keep this property. It's a historic gem. And so I totally support us purchasing it. I don't think the current owner would tear it down, but as I understand it, nothing would stop it, the current owner or any subsequent owner from raising this building. Is that correct?
No, it can be tore down. It has been listed on the historic registry, but it could still be tore down.
I think we have to avoid that risk, and that if our purchase abates that risk of this building ever being tore down, then that's a huge factor for me. It's a wonderful building.
Mr. Grant?
I completely agree. My grandfather had a house in Jackson County. It was of not the same caliber, but something kind of like it. And the possibility of Allgood losing something here that my grandmother's told stories about her going over there to the house. So me personally, I want Allgood to keep that, and I think it's an incredible asset to our city.
Mr. Bilbrey?
I'm for keeping it because it is historical and we need it.
Okay. Ms. Norris?
I think we did the right thing in buying it, and we need to keep it.
What kind of dollars are we talking about for, I mean, it's not in pristine condition. There's gonna be some dollars that we're gonna have to spend to bring it up to par here. You mentioned 60%. We think that 60% of the cost of redeveloping or that we're gonna have to dump into this is gonna be covered by grants. How much are we actually talking here?
We don't have a definitive number. We'll have to sit down with the development district and create a plan. Of course, one of the initial phases of the plan is going to have to be to secure the outside of the house to make it weather tight so that it can't deteriorate any further. And then the next phase would need to be parking and an outside restroom that would prevent the interior restrooms from having to be disturbed and used all the time. At this point, I don't have an exact dollar amount. I just we know there's going to be some needs there. Yes.
Yeah. But we feel pretty comfortable that there are historic grants out there that we can leverage for.
Yes,
for
there'll be
those efforts.
lots of historical grants. There are groups. There's already a Friends of White Plains. It's 501c3.
Good.
So there's the opportunity for volunteers to do fundraisers to raise money to help offset costs, as well as the use of volunteers to run the facility, get historical artifacts in the house, and bring it up to a usable state for tours and things of that nature. So there's going to be some available money there to help offset those costs.
What's the status of the back part of the property? At one point in time, the homeowner wanted to sell the whole parcel and then backed off of that. My first question is 2.27 acres enough for the parking? And is that back parcel off the table? What can we expect out of what's back there?
The back parcel will be
back there?
will be left remaining as it is, with a horse barn and probably the lease for the horses to be there. We have asked, as part of this consideration for us purchasing the house, that in the event the seller decides to sell the back property, we have right of first refusal, that we get the first option to purchase the rest of it in the event you want to make a natural area or a walking trail or things of that nature, that we would get first option. So at this time, there's no further development plans. They're just in a holding pattern and splitting it off, wanting to save the house, but also retain part of the property by the current owner.
It's kind of funny because, as Keith alluded to, my one-on-one visit with him at the house, coming out of it, a lady pulled up in the driveway we'd never seen before and asked if it was for sale, and if we were the owners and wanted to sell it. So you know, there's always, I think, always been an interest in the home itself. Excuse me, even from folks who don't even live here. You know, they know where it's at, or they're just driving by and it's like, wow. And it has that effect, not only the historical value, but it does have that effect. And I will add this too. I'm going to date myself a little bit. Coming upon 8 years involved with city government for the city of Allgood, and this has been before councils that don't even resemble this council as it sits now, and for whatever reason it's just not come to fruition. But I personally am glad that it may, after we vote tonight, come to fruition, because it's a win and a plus for everybody that lives here, for everybody that lives in the city. And that's my 2 cents. So
I had a similar situation when I met with Keith up there. Somebody from across the street that lived in the neighborhood across the street came over. Apparently she thought we were looking at developing it and maybe tearing it down, and she wanted to pass her concerns on that we should not tear it down, and was very very concerned that would be the case. So she was relieved to hear that that this was being contemplated.
Any other question or comment? I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
A motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 10, consider approval to surplus a Smith & Wesson .686 revolver awarded to the police department for auction. Chief Armor.
We'll have to defer to the captain in the back. It was prior to my arrival. I don't have
Okay.
any knowledge of this gun at all.
Captain Swallows, please.
Yes, sir. It was awarded to the police department based on a arrest we made. The owner of it was found intoxicated with a weapon. It has since been adjudicated and awarded to the police department.
Thank you, sir. Any comment or question on this?
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 11, consider approval to renew the agreement with UniFirst Corporation as outlined in the attached pricing sheet under the NJPA contract submitted. Mr. Morrison, please.
UniFirst is our uniform provider for public works, clothing, shirts, jackets, work pants. This is a national awarded contract. It is lowering our price, and I'll give just a couple examples. It's got quite a few pieces. Long sleeve shirts, currently we're paying 16 cents per piece. We'll be paying 14 cents per piece. Short sleeve shirts will go from 16 cents a piece to 12.1205 cents a piece. Soft twill plain pants are going to go from 28 cents a piece to just under 20 cents a piece. The same with jean denim, going from 0.28 to 0.256. Jackets are going from 50 cents to 0.387 cents a piece, so it's lowering our prices across the board on our uniform usage.
Any question or comment on this matter? I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and second. Mrs. Flatt?
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
At this time, I will turn the floor over to Mr. Morrison for the city administrator's report.
Mayor Dyer.
Yes,
Hold on
sir.
1 second. We have amended the.
Just when
You are correct, sir. I thank you for the reminder. At the beginning of this meeting, I added or amended the agenda to add CRI as auditor for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. As I stated earlier, this was our auditor that we will be or have received a report from, and this is looking toward them to doing our audit for next year. Any question or comment on this? I will say that very, very thorough audit. I thought it was concise. I thought it was professional. And I thought that a lot of areas were covered that may not have, and not pointing fingers when I say that, that may not have been covered in previous years. So, any other comment?
Well, my opinion is if we change auditors, then we're not gonna get a good reading as to where we're standing.
That's correct.
We're gonna get a new set of eyes, and I'd say stick with them.
I agree. Anything else? Ms. Norris?
Me too.
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept CRI as our auditor for the 2017-2018 fiscal year.
I'll accept, or second.
Have a motion and second. Mrs. Flatt?
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Grant, for the reminder again. Mr. Morrison?
Fire hall, the building has been delivered. The electrical has been moved, and construction is about to begin. We were told by the contractor today that it's full steam ahead, and all employees been notified to be ready to work. So there should be a building going up very soon and some pad work going on. The park grant that we applied for through Tennessee Healthy Parks, we were awarded that grant. That is a $50,000 planning grant to create a master plan for the park for the city of Allgood. It requires no match from us. It will be completely funded by the grant. We will work towards getting that going. We will have to bid that to get an engineering firm or an architectural firm to give us a design, layout, and phase out a plan as we go over the next 5 to 10 years to create a park that the citizens of Allgood will be proud of, and hopefully we're going to use the meetings that were done prior to the award of the grant to come up with that master plan of what the citizens have asked for that be included in the park. We definitely have to address parking, bathrooms. We were asked for a walking trail, playground, consider a pool or a water feature, and several other things. So all of that will be incorporated into that plan as we go into the design phase and bid out who's going to come up with that master plan and phase it out for us. The water sewer project that has been going on is in its easement phase, and we're progressing well. We've acquired several easements. Mr. Jones and I are going to finish those easements up soon and hopefully get that project rolling and get some dirt moving. Department heads, do you have anything else?
I will ask this, on the easement phase, is that the last phase before we could actually start construction?
It will be, yes.
Good. Thank you. Our next line is hearing of citizens or delegations. If you would like to address the council again, please step to the podium and state your name and address and what you would like to discuss. With no one approaching, I will add this, and I think I can speak for the rest of the members sitting here. Another month of a job well done, and everybody sees in the meetings, the department heads, you see Mr. Morrison and Mrs. Flatt, and you see Chief Armour, you see Mr. Jones, but another job well done by all the employees of the city of Allgood. And whether you believe it or not, they do get out and work and make the city go. There's no doubt about that. Yes, ma'am.
Since this citizen gets to stand up here,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Mary Graves,
Yes, ma'am.
and I want to say how much I appreciate Luke Hill for making us a part of this tonight and asking questions so we know what's going on. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Mrs. Graves. So again, it's the employees that make this place go, without a doubt, and under the direction of some really, really good people. So keep that in mind when you see a City of Allgood vehicle out doing their daily work every day. A big thank you to Keith and everybody concerned. Another job well done. I move adjournment. We are adjourned.